KGRA Digital Broadcasting and Pop Culture Minefield presents Dangerous Military Nerds. Dangerous Military Nerds. They're just like regular nerds, only dangerous. And now, your hosts, Don Ecker and Gary Cassell.
Here we are. And just so you know, all you slack-jawed civilians out there, it's been 79 years plus one on D-Day.
Yep. Man, shall we use that term again? Civilian pukes.
Or slack-jawed civilian pukes, yes.
Thank you again.
You're welcome. You know, I got to tell you, though, in the military, it's beat into us to respect citizens that they outrank us. Every civilian outranks you. You call every civilian sir or ma'am.
It's a little different right after Vietnam. Just a little different.
There's a lot of frustration. Because I know that when we went to pick up my brother at the airport in Phoenix, when he came back, I was confused by what was going on at the airport. How old was I? Was it 7? 7 when he got back. It was just weird the way people acted.
I came home on a train from Paoli, Pennsylvania, back to my hometown in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Back in those days, there was a Army military hospital over there at Valley Forge. Yep, that one. Valley Forge Army General Hospital or something like that. And I had been there, oh God, let me think. I got back from Southeast Asia the end of June. I had been in the hospitals in Guam, Clark, and then Okinawa at Camp Cooey. And they sent me first to, what the hell was the name of that hospital at Fort Dix? They flew me into Texas. I was in the military hospital there overnight. Then they flew me back to Jersey, to Dix. I was in the hospital there for a day or so, and then they sent me to Valley Forge. And that's where I discovered Bali High. Do you know Bali High?
No.
It's a wine.
Never heard of it.
But Bali High wine? Oh, yeah.
Good stuff.
Kind of a tropical, fruity type thing. But Anyway, I came home in the middle of a storm, and I got back to the train station at home, and there was my mother, my father, and my grandmother standing on the platform. That was it. That was my homecoming. And boy, I got to tell you, man, I was, in one regard, I was a happy camper. And in the other regard, it was like, Jesus Christ, love that welcome home, you know?
Yeah, Vietnam, didn't get the parades, man. You didn't get the proper welcome home. And
Then, let me tell you this. This has always been a little pet peeve of mine. So I get home, and I'm going back to school. I'm going to Penn State at night, okay? So I'm looking around for a job because, I needed something to do during the day. And I went down to a couple of places and applied for a job in, what the hell was it? Accounting or finance, because I was always pretty good in math. And here I was, a 10-point veteran, if you're going by points. In other words, not only was I a veteran, but I was a wounded veteran, and they give you extra points for that. The post office didn't hire me. Then I went to some civilian places. They didn't hire me because, as one guy told me, they had that new thing where they had to have diversity. Of course, they didn't call it diversity in those days, but they were looking for African American applicants, not Caucasians. Unfortunately, I was Caucasian. Yeah, that'll teach me.
Affirmative action was the thing.
The what?
Affirmative action.
There you go. Affirmative action. I couldn't think of it.
Yeah, I got I told you about my impact from that, because every veteran was promised an opportunity to work at the post office or for law enforcement. And so I wanted to be a cop. And so I tested. I tested highest, but because I was one of the last people that signed up for the test, affirmative action kicked me to the curb. And I didn't get to be a cop. And I'm like, that's fine. I'll be a paramedic.
Well, that was in 72, 73. Then in January 74 is when I entered the PD, the police force. So, yeah, back in the day.
So,
not a lot of energy in today's show here, buddy.
Yeah, well, I was almost like, do we do a show today? I don't know.
Yeah, we did.
And I'm like, well, look, yesterday was June 6th, and we don't do a show on Tuesday, so we're going to talk about it today. But I've been introducing Anima to a lot of films. It got too rough with her last night. She couldn't handle watching one of them last night.
What was
it? It's the opening combat scene in Saving Private Ryan.
That was a heavy scene. Yes, it was.
Yep. I remember when I went to see it, I had to get up and leave for a few minutes. And when I went outside, there were all these other vets out there smoking. They're like, couldn't handle that. I'll go back in when it's done. And as much as I poke fun at the film for some of the stuff, and it was nice having Dale on here to talk about it, the film really does get a lot of the combat right and what it's like dealing with that kind of combat. But even in those scenes, I was trying to explain to Anima, the MG42, you don't continuously fire it. The barrel will begin glowing and it'll melt.
The good thing about the MG42 is it had a quick change barrel. You see, the American version, which was the model 1919 A4 version, the A6 was the aircraft version, the A4 was the ground version, didn't have a quick change barrel. So you had to keep your burst, and they were still, believe it or not, Gary, they were using those, not Americans, but for the most part, but Vietnamese were using those in theater in Nam. But hey, that 30 caliber round, that was an ass kicker, and that puppy worked. But the Germans, actually, if you get right down to it, had a better gun. Now, the converse aspect to that was we had a much, much better infantry rifle. They were still using the Car 98, the bolt action rifle, the Mauser, and we had the M1 Garand. Now that Garand, that was a hell of a rifle. But the problem with the Garand, and they did have some problems with it. Number one, it fired from an end block clip of 8 rounds.
That was the biggest problem. 8-round clip.
You could not top it off. You fired 2, 3, 4 rounds. During a break in the action, you couldn't put 3 or 4 more rounds back in it. It was everything or nothing. That was one thing. Number two, that last round would knock that clip out, and it had a very distinctive sound, a ping. And if you had an enemy that was alert, they would know that you were out, you were reloading, and there was a fear that they could get to you before you get rid of it, before you could get that thing back in action. So GIs used to pick up empty clips and they'd fire a couple of rounds. Then they'd ping that thing out to see if they could trick the enemy because they still had a magazine full of ammunition to go. That was something. The other thing about the M1 Garand, the first ones that were issued, they were having a problem with some of the early Garands with the gas port. And those weapons would jam up or they wouldn't feed the last round. You'd fire 6 or 7 rounds and then it would jam up on you. Were you aware of that?
No.
Well, they got that sorted out pretty quick. But other than that, it was a hell of a rifle. Nobody else except the Russians really had a big, good semi-automatic rifle. But the Russians didn't issue that to all their troops. As a matter of fact, by the end of the war, practically the entire Soviet army were carrying submachine guns.
I didn't know that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. They would have entire battalions armed with, what the hell was that, PPJ or something like that? I forget now what they called that submachine gun. But yeah, they were pretty vicious at close range. Of course, you didn't have a lot of range on them. The Kraut MP40 was a pretty good gun, but just like in Cross of Iron, if you ever saw the movie Cross of Iron.
Yes, they have a Colonel Kissel in it. I love that movie.
Cross of Iron with James Coburn. He got rid of his MP40 and picked up one of those Soviet submachine guns. As it was, they carried over 70 rounds in their magazine, whereas the MP40 only had 32, just like the British Sten gun had 31 or 32 rounds that they carried in the stick magazine. And of course, then there was the Thompson. But by that time, they got rid of the model 1928, which you could put a round magazine on it, a drum, and they went strictly to stick magazines, which were 30. And they were in Vietnam too. And then they were supplemented by the M3A1 grease gun, which I had one of those in Vietnam because they were really handy at close range.
45. So, and it managed not to be as heavy as a Thompson, even with that.
No,
caliber.
not quite. But it wasn't a light gun. But yeah.
What did you think of the action on that? Because my dad always said it was kind of loosey goosey, rattled a lot.
The grease gun?
Yeah, it rattled.
A little bit. Yeah. The tolerances were not tiny, like, for example, the M16, but it never failed me. And hey, if you got a weapon that never failed you, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Nothing worse than getting jammed up. I was explaining the other day on our other show on Monday about the BAR that it was the squad automatic weapon of World War II, and again. The problem with the BAR, just like with the M1, was how many rounds you carried. And you go, because they had 2 different automatics on it. You had, there was a slower automatic and then a really fast automatic. But when you use the fast automatic, you squeeze the trigger and it's empty. And
yeah, well, the BAR was originally made for World War I. And it was introduced literally at the end of the war. And basically, the idea behind the BAR was to give a rifleman that weapon, and they would be walking across no man's land to take the other trenches. You see, that was a war that basically progressed by inches, feet, and yards from one trench line to the next. The Germans had their Maxim machine guns all along that line, and they would try these mass infantry attacks. Those general officers should have been kicked in the ass, and those guys would get the advancing troops. They'd be massacred by the thousands. Well, the idea of the BAR was to put enough fire down there to keep the bad guys, their heads down. However, as time went on, the BAR was a heavy gun. It was about 24, 25 pounds, fully loaded. It only held 20 rounds in a box magazine. It was not a quick change out like the M16, for example. You had to get rid of the empty, put a fresh one in, go on the other side of the gun to cock it, get the bolt back up, and there was a little process there. Now,
well, because the BAR's charging handle is on the left side instead of on the right side.
Right. And hey, they gave a lot of those to the South Vietnamese at the beginning of the war. You would see these two-man sentry squads out on roads or lanes or paths or something. One guy would be there with the BAR, the other guy would have an M1 Garand, and believe me, that was funny. Vietnamese were not big guys. And you'd see this little guy with an M1 Garand that was as damn big as he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then the M1 carbine became very popular over there. The M1 with the 50, the semi-automatic version. Then they had an M2 version of the carbine that would be fully automatically capable, and they would usually have a 30-round magazine in it. Now, the carbine was not a weapon that I had a lot of faith in. And the reason was the cartridge. Now, I never used it in combat. I mean, I'll tell you that right up front. I never used it, but I just didn't have faith in the stopping power of that. I had a lot more faith in the 16 than I did the M1 carbine or M2. But if you get right down to stopping power, that's why I preferred that M3A1 grease gun. Now that had stopping power.
Now, by the way, you mentioned something with the BAR that was original. There was another weapon that was brought up a few minutes ago that was invented for World War I, but never hit the trenches. Was the Thompson, because it was invented in 1918, and it was supposed to be able to break some of the problems they were having with combat with trench warfare, but it didn't hit the field, and it was named after Brigadier General Thompson. And it's a powerful weapon. And the funny part of that weapon is they couldn't give the damn things away. The military was like,
you know what the rate of fire on those first guns were?
Those first Thompsons? I have no idea. What were they?
900 rounds a minute. 900 rounds a minute.
That's pretty good, especially when you could put a drum on that thing.
Yeah.
But that's how gangsters got a hold of it, because they were selling them to farmers, practically giving them away to farmers. And the mob's like, well, we'll buy some of those. And that's why it's so famously known for gangsters, is because they were getting them because the government was trying to give them away. They had all these fucking guns and no use for them.
And it wasn't a cheap gun.
No.
Not cheaply made.
No. Over a period of time, at that time, those guns were going for like $250, $300 a pop. And that then was massive money. Now, the Marines bought some, and they took them down to Nicaragua with them. Did you know that? The Banana Wars down there.
Oh, yeah, the Banana Wars with the Marines. Yeah, they were the first ones to use them in combat.
Yeah, and they liked it.
Well, it's a great freaking weapon. Anybody who's gotten a chance to fire a Thompson automatic, because of my childhood best friend Mike Beatty, his dad was a field instructor of the FBI. I told you he showed up one day there at the Isaac Walton League. That's where we would go every weekend to go shooting. And he showed up one weekend. He looked at Mike and me. He goes, "You boys want to fire a Thompson automatic?" We were like, "Yes." We were like 16. Yes, and it was something else. And
now, right before World War II began with us, okay, not the Europeans, they were already involved, but a new automatic weapon was introduced that the Marines ended up buying a shitload of them, called the Rising submachine gun. It was a wooden stocked 45 caliber automatic gun that was a lot cheaper to manufacture than the Thompson. As a matter of fact, the Marines bought a ton of them. They took them to Guadalcanal. Okay. We were still in the process of manufacturing all the stuff we were going to need for the long term. They were farming out things like the 1911 45 automatic to different places like Singer Sewing Machine Company. All these industries went on a war footing. Okay, the Rising gun was inherently an accurate gun. It would fire either semi-automatic or full automatic. The problem with the Rising, however, was that it fired from a closed bolt. The tolerances were pretty tight, and the thing could not handle dirt, mud, rain. It was basically initially designed for police departments. Now, the police department's not going to be out in the mud and the blood like the military is. And they bought these guns, and they hated the guns. They hated them. As a matter of fact, one Marine commander, after they got off Guadalcanal, had his entire unit throw them into the ocean off the coast of Guadalcanal. You shit can those damn things. And they did.
Really?
But, oh yeah.
Why? What was his?
The gun was unusable in the jungle. It would jam up on them. They couldn't keep them in operation. No, the Rising.
Oh, okay. I was like, I got confused for a second, thinking, oh, the Thompson, because I know Marines fucking love the Thompson.
No, the Thompson. Shit. Look, that was one of the finest submachine guns in the world at that time. But the problem was it was costing the government a mint to manufacture.
Produce. Yeah.
The British, okay, when Britain was screaming for weapons, okay, after Dunkirk, all right, they left everything in Europe. They left tanks there. They left trucks. They left artillery. As a matter of fact, the only thing that Tommies could get off the continent with to get back to Britain was their Lee Enfield rifle. And by God, help the Tommy that lost his rifle. They got back. They were virtually unarmed. So Churchill gets a hold of Roosevelt, and he's begging for guns. That's where the whole Lend-Lease thing happened, where we gave them 50 World War I destroyers, okay, for the use of a 99-year lease on, was it Greenland, I believe, where we ended up putting military bases. The big fear was that the Nazis were going to go into the North Atlantic, get over there, and occupy those places, Iceland too. And but they wanted Thompson guns. And we sold them Thompson guns at full price, over $200 a copy, okay, is what the British paid us. And that was prohibitively expensive. We damn near broke the British economically by all that stuff we sent over there. But they had to find something else. That's when the Brits started looking for another submachine gun, and they came up with the Sten gun, the Sten Mark
machine
II.
gun, yep. Side loader, which was used for all you nerds out there, the Star Wars blasters used by the stormtroopers, which is funny because all of the stormtroopers, if you really pay attention in the movie, are left-handed. The reason why is because of the way the machine gun is loaded on that one side. So they couldn't have it loaded with the full magazine because that would be up against their armor. Just a little fucking trivia thing. Weapons are a big thing in Star Wars, and people don't realize like the use of the weapons in there. The MG-42, MG-38. There's a lot of World War II guns used in Star Wars. Even Chewbacca's bowcaster was made from a British submachine gun. Just a lot of cool pistols. Mauser, the 1899 broom handle, is what Han Solo carried. It's a handsome weapon, pointless in its design, just terrible design. The first design was top loaded, and then eventually they turned it into a magazine, but the clip in the original was just a pain in the ass. Clips are a pain in the ass, period. If you know anything about clips and guns, they're just a pain. Magazines are always better. Yeah, better control, better, round loading control. Clips are just, and they're noisy. Because that's the other thing that was supposedly an enemy giveaway for the M1 Garand is the spring sound it would make when it would empty. It would make, and they showed really a lot of it in Saving Private Ryan.
Well, even up till the early 1990s, American tankers still carried the M3A1 grease gun in their vehicles, okay? That was in case they got broken down, knocked out, whatever, and they needed personal weapons, needed personal defense weapons. They still carried the 45 caliber grease gun. And I'm sure you knew that, Gary.
No, I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't. But I'm not surprised by it at all because it's a hell of a weapon. I thought I'd show these real quick. This is a photo of the Marines. They took Caesar's his flag during the Banana Wars. And that was the captured flag. But this one is Guadalcanal, the U.S. Marines firing the wonderful Tommy gun.
That looks like a model 1928.
And by the way, that's a BAR in the other guy's hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is.
And John called it a bar yesterday. I said, I've never heard it called that. I've never heard anybody call it a bar. I remember getting the shit kicked out of me verbally by my dad when I called it a bar as a kid because I didn't know. And he says, BAR, call that a bar. Bar is just an ugly bear being killed by a Kentuckian.
Hey, Bush.
Hey, Bush is here. Yeah, we haven't said hi to everybody. Let's check, see who's all here today. We've got, Anima Confusa is here. Dragon Rouge, Joe's Atmosphere. Joe couldn't be on today. Jack of All Casuals, Andy Morrow, Monkey Jeebus, the Peter Vinkman fan site, Parrot Head, and of course, Bush is here. So, hope everybody's having a good Wednesday. Hump day. Wait, what was this? Grease gun was compact and cheap. Also, it's machined. That's the thing. There are those that are tooled and there are those that are machined. It's like the difference between an AK-47 and an SKS. They look very similar, but one's machined and the other one is not. Machined.
Did you know that
They're stamped.
the production cost
the
of
stamped machines, the stamped submachine guns or assault rifles, some people like to call them, that fire full automatic, are great weapons, to be honest with you, but they're cheaply made. And again, the AK-47, as Clint Eastwood would say, this is the AK-47, the preferred weapon of your enemy. It makes a very distinct sound when fired at you. Know it well.
Do you know what was the production cost of each Grace gun?
No,
about
I don't.
$20.
$15.
$15. You know, those stamped guns, man, the machine parts, the ones that have to be, drilled down with tools, beveling it and all that shit, those are expensive. You get those ones that are just stamped, like the AK-47 in particular and the grease gun, very cheaply made. They hold well, but they rattle. They're known to rattle. But like the AK-47, I was like talking to one of my other Vietnam War buddies. He said, I'll tell you something, man. That thing could go through anything and it would still fire. In water, mud, and pick that up, load it up, charge that handle, and fucking fire it. He says you couldn't do that with an M16.
Well, that's one reason I always packed a 1911. Always. I carried a 1911 everywhere, from the shower to the shitter to the field. Okay, I had a 45. A lot of say, "Oh, what the hell are you packing that thing for? It's too heavy." Yeah. Well, let me tell you what. Yeah.
Stopping power, one round. It's like if you got to fire a 9mm, you're going to probably put down three rounds down range to drop somebody. You hit somebody with 145, it's done. They're not going to go, "Oh, you winged me." And again, by the way, it rattles. The Colt Combat, that sucker rattles. You can shake it.
When the military in 85, 86 made the transition to that Italian abortion, okay, I'm talking about the Beretta 92F.
Yeah, it's a piece of crap.
That Italian abortion. Well, it's got 15 rounds. Well, you want to put
One
2 or 3 people down, you need every one.
Yep.
Not with the 45.
Take somebody down, you got to mag dump them. It's ridiculous. Not a very good weapon. I never liked it.
And it was done for political purposes.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. NATO. Okay. NATO. All of NATO packed the 9mm. All right. They did it for political purposes. They got rid, and there were, at the time, you were just a kid then. I remember this. There were a lot of pissed off people, boy. Big time pissed off people that they got rid of the 1911.
Well, it's a hell of a weapon. And by the way, hi, Decepticons Cave of Comics and Toys. Welcome to the show.
Now, there is one caveat with the 1911, and that is the magazine only held 7 rounds. Okay. Today, it's what the hell do you call it? You can get 10-round magazines for the 1911. Okay. You can get magazines that hold, and they fit these magazines are flush in the handle that hold 9 rounds. Okay. Unlike the 7-round, you can get magazines that hold 9 rounds. You can get magazines that hold 10 that extend from the grip, but I don't see that as a problem.
I don't either, because you're going to use less rounds with a 45 anyway. Again, known for its stopping power. It was created specifically because of the shit going on in the Philippines when we were fighting against the Moors. Once again, a lot of people don't know this. It was one of our first wars with Islam. One of the early wars with Islam was dealing with the Moors in the Philippines. They were Muslims.
Moros.
Yeah, Moros. I'm sorry, Moros. And they were tying machetes into their hands, and they would jump out of trees onto the soldiers down below And even if you shot them with your Webley 38, they'd still fall on you and stab you and possibly kill you. And they were doing a lot of damage falling out of the trees like that.
Well, the end of the 19th century, all the major military powers in the world were making the transition from black powder to the brand new smokeless powder.
Yep.
And we, the Americans, had been still using as a sidearm the Colt Single Action Army.
Yep.
Now, that was a 45 caliber revolver, but single action. It meant that you had to manually cock the hammer in order to fire the weapon. You couldn't just stand there and pull the trigger. You had to manually cock it each time. So they knew they needed something else. They went and developed a 38 caliber Colt cartridge, not the 38 Special, the 38 Colt, which in retrospect is a weaker cartridge than the 38 Special. But they figured this will be good enough until they ran into the Moros. And then they discovered it wasn't. They ended up reissuing the Colt Single Action Army just to put these bastards down.
Yep.
Okay. Now, there's another weapon system, Gary.
Hold on. I want to show the picture of this so people know what we're talking about. There it is. That's the Colt Single Action Army. And that
would do the job, too.
It would do it. Because they needed a weapon they wanted a weapon that would flip or turn the guys falling out of the trees. And the 45 uses what my dad used to tell me was the hydraulic effect, because it's a large round moving at a slower speed. And so instead of aiming to effectively go through and kill the target, it would punch the target, gathering all that gas and fluid on the way. And it would cause, and it's one of the few guns that I was taught that would actually do what they show in Hollywood of knocking a guy backwards. That went in a really well-placed 12 gauge.
Well, the other gun that I was going to mention is the Winchester Model 1897 pump action 12 gauge shotgun, which we took to World War I with us when we got to Europe in 1917, 1918. And it was so effective using buckshot and rifled slugs that the Germans, at that time they were the Imperial Germans.
That's that motherfucker right there.
Filed official protests against the Americans carrying those guns. And they told the International Commission, any American troop we find with one of those shotguns, we're going to execute. The American officials were told that. And then they came back with, well, let's see, we've got X amount of 1,000 German soldiers in POW camps. You kill our guys, we're going to start killing your guys. And that stopped it.
Of course it does. You have to be willing to go that far. You know, you won't see that shit today. You won't see it. You know, people are too afraid of public opinion in the media for soldiers to do their jobs effectively. Where you get somebody threatening that, well, fine, you do that, and we'll return the favor and start killing your people. Execute them. But that's a hell of a weapon right there. Look at that baby. Winchester 1897 pump shotgun. That was one of the, they called it the trench gun.
Right.
That was its nickname. It was a beast. But,
and you could slam fire that gun. Do you know what that is?
Loading and firing at the same time. That's right. Right?
You could hold the trigger back and just pump it, and it would fire.
Oh, that. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. That's fucking cool. So just keep pumping and never let down on or let up on the
And the
trigger.
Model 12. The Winchester Model 12 would do the same thing then. And that's one way they would get almost automatic fire in the trenches. World War One.
That's fucking amazing, dude. I didn't know it did that.
Yeah.
Just squeeze that trigger and keep pumping. Holy shit.
Yep.
But I do want to point this out, by the way. We will get back to D-Day. These were the guys that were serving that day. Well, there we go. 1st Infantry Division, Big Red 1, 4th Infantry Division, 82nd Airborne, 29th Infantry Division, which is my division that I was with first, 101st Screaming Eagles, and then there were non-divisional units that also made up, by the way, of Army Reserve and National Guard. And it was, because people don't know that the National Guard and Reserves were used a lot in war. My grandfather was U.S. Army Reserves, or National Guard, National Guard, Illinois National Guard. And his unit was one of the first ones to go to Germany, to France. He was there for Bella Wood. He was in the back while the Marines were doing their shit. And
I heard a story yesterday that you're going to appreciate. Okay. Right. There were some touristas coming from North America over to France. An old elderly Canadian, guy and his wife. They were going to France. I don't know why. I guess vacation or something, but they got into France, and the old Canadian guy, had his passport. Supposedly, this is true. All right. Supposedly, this is a true story. He had his passport in his carry-on bag, and he got before the customs official, and he's rooting around in his bag trying to find his passport. And obviously, this French customs guy was getting a little irritated, and he said something to the old Canadian, something like, "Monsieur, have you never been to France before?" Indicating,
hey, yeah,
you're supposed to have your goddamn passport ready, right?
I know this.
And so finally he finds it. He hands it to the French guy. French guy examines it, stamps it, does whatever he has to do. And he said, "So you've never been here before?" "Well, I've been here once." "Well, I'm sure you had your passport ready then." And the guy said, "No. As a matter of fact, what the hell was he? Came in on Juno or?"
Yeah, probably Juno.
Hello.
Frenchmen to check our passports. So,
by the way, I'm glad you brought up Frenchmen, because one of the things that a lot of people tend to gloss over, ignore, there were French that fired on the American and Allies on D-Day. They were known as the Vichy French. They were absolutely collaborators, and they treated us with great prejudice. And there were Americans that were wounded and killed by French citizens who did not want the Allies there. They were quite happy.
Happened in North Africa too.
Yep. So when you see movies about D-Day, they always leave that out. In fact, in The Longest Day, because we got about 1 hour into it with Anima, it's a 3-hour movie, so we didn't watch it in one evening. We got to finish the rest of it probably tomorrow. And but she got to see some of the French underground, which were some great people, man. Let me tell you, the French underground were tough, and
most of them were commies.
Later on, that's right, and they fought alongside the OSS and Allied forces, and they're the ones on D-Day who took out all the power lines in Normandy. They went out there with explosives and just blew them all down, took them down, all the telephone lines and power lines. USA dropped something called the Liberator into French villages. Little single-shot guns. Yep, it's true.
Well, there were models of 2 barrels and 4 barrels because technically it was disposable. You shot it and throw away.
Well, they were basically they were modeled like a semi-automatic. They weren't. They were single shot. You had to open the breech, slip a 45 in it. They gave you a little wooden ramrod to knock the casing out after you shot it. The thing was damn near as dangerous to the user as it was the intended victim, but it was a gun that shot, and there was very few guns floating around. The idea was you kill a German with it, then you take his Mauser rifle.
Take his Mauser rifle. And even Bush brought that up, by the way. I think he even said that the whole idea was to get close enough to get a headshot in, to get up to him, to shoot him in the side of the head or in the face.
It was a 45.
Yep.
That gun fired a 45.
And take the rifle, and then you'd have a weapon. And so it's kind of funny, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, that's what it was meant for. Assassinate and take the weapon. The Allies were very careful in that day. And it's the first, it's the greatest amphibious landing in the history of the military. It also broke the rules that were pretty much established that you only did those things in good weather. And the irony is that the best weather they had was in May. May was like fucking awesome to hit Normandy, but they just kept bypassing, and I'm not even sure why. But on
D-Day originally was supposed to be June 5th. And it was canceled
because of weather again.
Because of the weather.
Yep, it was too heavy. But it was still raining on the 6th, and some of the Germans really didn't believe for a second that the Allies would launch a mission on a day with shitty weather. So they just let their defenses down. And it was a huge mistake, and that's why we haven't gotten to it yet, but it's one of my favorite moments in the movie, The Longest Day, when the Germans look out and see all those ships through the fog and rain. And they're like, oh, shit. There's just this moment where I bet you guys shit their fucking pants when they saw that. They really did. I'm not joking. I'm saying I guarantee you some people shit their pants when they saw that Navy. Because even in the movie, it doesn't look like Big Red 1 really does not show it either. You know, both films talk about D-Day, and it doesn't show the ships that were on that horizon. It was from left to right horizon full of naval vessels coming at them. Very few were turned sideways. They were almost all coming towards them. And when you see something like that, your entire skyline peppered with ships, you know you're in fucking trouble.
Well, the Germans should have had an idea that something was up, because
after Sicily, too.
Early that morning, hundreds of aircraft were overflying France and dropping paratroops.
That's right. In internal Normandy, the first units, I forget, what were they called? The quick something?
Pathfinders.
Pathfinders, that was it. The Pathfinders were the first ones dropped in behind enemy lines. And that's, by the way, where the British came up with that idea of sending down those sandbag troopers. And they were half the size of an actual human, but you can't tell when it's against the night sky. It looked like a lot more paratroopers were being dropped.
Rigged up with firecrackers.
Firecrackers. In the movie, and I told Anima, I said, that's not what they looked like, and that's not how they worked. These things were so basic in their design. They were burlap, cut in the shape of people with sand and beans shoved into them, and firecrackers on the outside with a fuse detonator. And it was amazing what they were designed to do. They were to confuse the enemy. It was some of the first, earliest, best use of psychological warfare on an enemy was on D-Day.
Now, something else that historians, well, some mention it, but the Germans did not have all first-line troops at Normandy.
Right.
They had a lot a lot of second and third rate troops there. That because hey, where was the big war for the Krauts then? On the Eastern Front.
Yep.
The Russians, okay, they were scared shitless of the Russians because they knew after what they had done in Russia that those guys were going to be coming for some serious payback. And they did too.
Absolutely. And by the way, I'm going to show this real quick. This is also the other thing that the Germans were expecting was that because of the proximity of England to France right here at Calais, the Germans were expecting, especially with the history of Dunkirk, that Calais was the target for the invasion. They were expecting, and they reinforced there. They really did not have all of their troops all the way down at Normandy. They just did not expect that because it wasn't expected. You know.
Well, Rommel did. Rommel was hedging
the smartest
all
one,
bets.
but they weren't listening to him. And it's a huge problem. Is some of your smartest officers will talk and everybody ignores them. It's sort of like in America, we had a gentleman by the name of Billy Mitchell that predicted Pearl Harbor. You know?
Yes,
and
he did.
He said that's going to happen. And he got court-martialed because he was getting so upset with the military. They weren't listening to him. Karma's a motherfucker. And what a lot of people don't know is really what led to the war with Japan was what the defunct League of Nations was doing with the United States, blockading constructive metals, steel, iron, from Japan. And we kept doing it, and nobody was putting up their defenses after doing that. It's like there's going to come a point where they're going to get sick of this shit, and they're going to fight to get that metal from for their war. Hey, Zax is here. Hey, buddy, how you doing, man? Good old Kyle. Good old Kyle. Do I have the video queued up? Let me see if I have the video. Let me see. Do I have it?
Please do. Please do.
Where's it at? Is it here? Do we have it?
No, I don't think so.
Nope, I don't see it. Oh, here it is.
Hey, fuck you, Kyle.
There you go. I do want to show this. This is from the U.S. Army. A little video they put out about, I think it's about Dwight D. Eisenhower and D-Day. So I'll go up play it.
In company with our brave allies and brothers in arms on other fronts, you will bring about the destruction of the German war machine, the elimination of Nazi tyranny over the oppressed peoples of Europe, and security for ourselves in a free world. Your task will not be an easy one. Your enemy is well-trained, well-equipped, and battle-hardened. He will fight savagely. But this is the year 1944. Much has happened since the Nazi triumphs of 1940-41. The United Nations have inflicted upon the Germans great defeats in open battle, man to man. Our air offensive has seriously reduced their strength in the air and their capacity to wage war on the ground. Our home fronts have given us an overwhelming superiority in weapons and munitions of war, and placed at our disposal great reserves of trained fighting men. The tide has turned. The free men of the world are marching together to victory. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We will accept nothing less than full victory. Good luck, and let us all beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking.
That's something, man. Now, my dad had access to some of this stuff, and I've been told by others that there's footage that will never see the light of day in public from D-Day. They have claimed that it was lost in some of the footage was lost in the salt water of the ocean. It's not true. In fact, one of the best things to save film in is cold salt water. So it's bullshit. What it is The footage should not be seen by the citizens of this country because it is that bad. And Saving Private Ryan pretty much, and I remember talking to my dad about that. He says, yeah, some of the footage you see, that I saw when he was in the Army with the archives, he says it was as bad as that.
Well, on that first day, the Americans and our British allies, and I guess some Free French forces that went in, we lost on day one in excess of 10,000 casualties. That's one day. Okay, 10,000 casualties. So yeah, that was a bloody affair.
It was. And as my dad told me, he said, that is something that no American citizen should have to see. Watching loved ones going into combat and getting ripped apart. But I think that Saving Private Ryan and Dale Dye's work, because he directed all the combat footage, he captured it really well. I think that he showed the soldiers running very sluggishly. When you're in the water, yeah, you're sluggish. But once you hit that beach, it's not so sluggish running up to get up further. But they were trapped in those tank catchers. I forget what they're called. And they kept it in the film, the sound of rounds hitting those things as they're hiding behind them. And that's got to be horrifying. And
a lot of them had mines on them. They had German mines. That whole area, the Germans had mined that. That was pretty horrific. Yes.
Yeah, man. We will be right back after this message from our sponsors. Chanel, take us away.
I don't want to go.
Hi, guys. This is Gary from Pop Culture Minefield here on KGRA, and we're leaving for our first break. I hope we survive.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients.
And search KGRA DB.
Oh, wow. We survived. Welcome back to the commercial break. Now for some more Pop Culture Minefield on KGRA.
And we back. Yeah, we back. I heard you go, I don't want to go. That made me giggle. I don't know if anybody heard me laughing, but that tickled me. I want to go. I have one thing I got to tell you, man. You got people, and I've met them all the time. We see them every day, talk shit, like, man, if that was me, I wouldn't. And it's like, man, I can do anything. You don't know shit. You don't know shit. When those bullets start coming at you, what you're gonna fucking do. I don't care if I've been shot at in public too. It's not the fucking same. It's completely different. There's a lot more rounds coming at you from downrange than there is in a street situation. So, you just sound dumb when you say shit. You just do. It's like, I know you have trouble seeing it when you're saying it.
You ain't lived.
You really do look dumb.
Through a mortar barrage, buddy. Let me tell you what. And after it slows down, there's nothing that can quite surpass lighting up that first Marlboro cigarette.
Yeah, afterwards. All I know is like artillery is the thing that freaked me out. And I remember telling my dad, I said, Grandpa was right, man. The ground slaps your feet when it hits. And you feel that, it's something else. The ground, it feels like it's not even ground anymore. It's like something under you slapping your feet really hard.
I can remember screaming, "Worms, get out of my way."
Bullets, they're scary things. I remember I got shot at in the military one time, but it doesn't count because it was friendly fire, even though it didn't feel friendly at the time. That was distressing. It really was surprising about tracers coming at you because I had trouble gauging distance. And it's really hard. Because I know you've been shot at with tracers. Did you have trouble gauging the distance? And you were being shot at because they wanted to kill you.
Well, the thing about tracers I always noticed was whether they were red or green. Okay. The bad guys had green tracers. And yeah, I could generally calculate the distance to the gun. Generally, it was what the hell were they using? Soviet PPK, okay, light machine guns. Although they didn't seem like they were that goddamn light. But yeah.
Because I had trouble gauging the distance because I knew it was close, but I couldn't tell if
where
it was
the
30.
The M79 was sweet.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, the M79 is a beast. It's a beast. It's the precursor to what you dealt with was the XM203. XO203, the XM203, which later for us was just the 203. We just called it the 203. There was no M in front of it. And it was pretty. I really like those things. But the M79's, it's better designed. Because when you fire a 203, you can lift your weapon all the way up if you want to, but the odds are it's going to be more comfortable for you to tilt your weapon sideways to fire it. And so you don't hit the barrel.
No, I loved that M79. I really did. And it was always a toss-up whether I wanted to shoot smoke, which was basically phosphorus rounds, or an HE, because depending upon how pissed off I was, the idea of splashing somebody with Willie Pete never bothered me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. For those of you who don't know what Willie Pete is, it's white phosphorus, and it's nasty, and it's meant to be nasty. It just keeps burning until it's done, and it'll get into your skin and cook you from the inside. It's just gnarly. In fact, in one of my scripts, I use Willie Peter to heat up water so they can figure out where the stream is going to. So they load it up with Willie Peter to heat the water up, and use a drone with heat sensor that reads the ground, and they follow the trail of hot water going up to the top of this hill and discover where the bad monkeys are. Even Dale Dye said it was a really good combat scene where they go up against these mutated gigantic mandrills, and mandrills are the scariest fucking apes I've ever seen on the planet. They terrify me. Non-mutated 6-inch fucking fangs. Just scary. But anyway, Willie Peter was used in grenades, using different kinds of explosives. They even dropped bombs with white phosphorus. And it's just gnarly. It really is. In fact, as I recall, didn't they drop some on Hamburger Hill?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're doing everything to root out the North Vietnamese that were in their little foxholes. And I mean, not foxholes. They were, what do you call those? They were tunnels.
Bunkers.
Yeah, bunkers. Thank you. They're dug into their bunkers, man. Napalm couldn't get them. And napalm's nasty. I mean, those are two things I would never want to have around me is fucking napalm and Willie Peter. Because both of them are just fucking horrible. You've had experience with that stuff, seeing it happen.
Yeah.
Let's see. Bush says, Zach, that's because they use really cheap made Chinese guns. So they have to hold them sideways to cycle the round.
The real reason. I'm sorry.
No, because I think
that's guys doing this
shit.
Yeah. The Israeli came up with that because some guns, when you fire, the muzzle tends to move, and when you put it sideways, the muzzle move sideways, and the line of fire is still okay. It's up and down, but it's still aimed at the general direction of the target. So it's not for looks.
I laugh when I see some moron doing that. Okay, instead of
and it's funny if you watch guys that fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, when they're telling stories, you'll catch them do this shit, and they never held their weapon like this. But when they're telling the stories, that's the hand gesture they do when they're talking about fighting in combat. Yeah, you see some fucking tango move up there, some haji, and it tickles me when I see it. But that's just the common way of, they learned that from each other. And each generation has this interesting way of doing things. And that's the last 20 years of soldiers, they started doing that. If the white phosphorus, doesn't kill you, the fumes and chemicals will. It's pretty gnarly. It's nasty. It's gangster style, but yeah, you're right. Israelis started that stuff, but they did it with training. They also didn't tend to do it with one hand.
And of course, it's only for CQB, so you don't need to aim on sight.
You have a problem with aim when you do it that way. There is a problem with aim when you turn your weapon, and it's a weird thing that occurs inside the human brain. It's sort of like I was trained. It's the finger rule, the pointing. I wouldn't look down the sights. I aimed with my fingertip. We're taught to point at things and learn to aim using the point method, because there's something that occurs in the human brain that when you point at something, you think you're pointing at it, but when you stop and really look at it, you go, oh shit, I'm really pointing at it.
Well, we trained with something called the quick kill course. And I'll never forget, they took us out in the this was stateside training area, and gave everybody a not a military helmet, but like a face shield, okay, and handed everybody a BB gun. Yeah, you heard me, a BB gun. And then you would walk down this path. Oh, hang on, stand by.
No problem. I love this. By the way, I see just another red shirt just dropped in. How you doing, my friend? Hey, good to see you. Be seeing you.
Our Terminex guy is here.
Oh, and Bailey's letting us know.
Yes. But anyway, this quick kill course, you would walk down, you'd be looking for an ambush site, and the idea was to snap shoot the enemy, right? And it was basically the same concept. Point, shoot, not aim, point and shoot.
Yep.
And
So you were
and
taught
I'll tell
that.
you what. Yeah. And
Very
I'll tell you
effective.
what, it is very much.
I have never missed the target ever. Learning to aim that way. And it blew my mind, because it really occurs in the human brain that when you point at something, you think, oh, I'm really pointing at it. You actually are. You're pointing right dead center of it. It's something that occurs in the human brain that occurs naturally. And I think it was one of the most effective things that I learned. And it also in there is where I learned, because you use the modified pistol position where you hold it out away from you. Forget the name of it. Oh, it's the police
Weaver.
stance. Weaver.
Weaver.
The modified Weaver. And we're taught to hold the weapon right here, just below your face, slightly to the right of it, and move in that way and keep tucked in. Keep a small target. It's for turning corners. It's all about turning corners.
I'll never forget, we were qualifying with the 1911, and I was using the Weaver stance. Now, the Army, for some unknown reason, wanted everybody to shoot one-handed. Well, that's bullshit. Now, I had a 45 before I ever went into the Army. I had an old, as a matter of fact, it was a Norwegian copy of the Colt. Okay, it was a Norwegian gun. I don't know if you know that Norway during the war had been under license manufacturing 1911 style handguns. And then the Germans, okay, when the Germans occupied Norway, the German troops in Norway adopted that as a sidearm. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, one of these somehow got to the States, and I got it from my cousin. I actually swapped him a surplus rifle for that handgun. And at that time, there was a lot of cheap surplus World War II 45 ammunition. And I take that thing to the range all the time and shoot it. So I was very, very cognizant of the 1911 before I ever went into the service. Well, with the Weaver stance, okay, I was very good. And we were out basically qualifying with the 1911, and I dumped them all 7 rounds right in the X-ring. And if you're shooting it the way the Army wanted you to shoot it, basically it looked like somebody fired a shotgun at the target, okay? But not mine. And this colonel came up and he looked at the target, he looked at me, and he said, "Damn, son, that's good shooting." "Yes, sir." "How did you do that?" Just did it, sir." So,
it ain't nothing but a thing.
Yeah. Ain't nothing but a thing.
By the way, you brought the M79. I wanted to show this picture of my brother Steven in Vietnam holding the M79. He was drunk with his best friend, John Green. John Green's holding the M60 and he's holding the M79 pointing right at his fucking head.
Yeah.
But look at that. Hey, he's showing proper trigger discipline right there.
Now, the M79 had another round that I kind of liked for real close in and personal. It was a buckshot round. And, oh, yeah, you
The
could.
hell?
I've never heard of this.
What, a buckshot round?
Never heard of this.
Oh, hell yeah. They also had some rounds. I never saw one that fired flechettes.
See, I fired one that was fragmentary. I've fired smoke and gas. I have never fired anything that had pellets in it. That's crazy. I like that.
That is something akin like that Russian shotgun. What is it? 6 gauge?
Yeah. Oh my God. I don't know if you've ever seen that, Don. Have you seen that? That insane
Russian
shotgun?
No.
Oh, okay. I got to find it here.
No.
Because Martin and I watched the video.
But that buckshot round, let me tell you what, that will make you sit up and take notice. You do not want to be on the wrong.
What do you think about this?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't want to be on that either. Yeah. Insane Russian 4 gauge.
Korean, Viet Cong, same thing.
Here, I'm going to give you the link if you want to queue it up to play when he's firing this thing, Martine.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. It's in the private chat.
Oh, man. I just hope my computer doesn't hang because...
Oh, Roman of the Empire is here. Roman is a big history guy. I like that about him. Connie Cleary is here. Have I missed anybody? I'm going back through. It looks like she just said hi to everybody. Okay, good. I don't like it when I miss anyone.
Jolene Blaylock, is she here?
Oh, I wish.
Damn.
I mean, I don't wish because the woman I love is here. So, good catch, Gary. Well done. Thank you.
Nope.
Oh, I didn't catch it quick enough. Fuck. Jack of all casuals says, I knew playing video games was good. Yeah, I had a kid actually say that, man, I played so much Call of Duty. I got PTSD from it. Shut up. But what I found is some of my buddies that had PTSD, it really was very therapeutic getting in there and playing Call of Duty. And they played Bad Company with me. They played regular Battlefield and Call of Duty. And they get in there and they said there was something cathartic about it. You know, making it's not real anymore. And it became, what do they call that? Mechanical reaction thing. It turned it back into that mechanical reaction thing for him. Not everybody said that, because I've had some guys say, yeah, it's too much for me. But there are some of the guys I played with that found it very therapeutic. It's fun killing virtual people. No guilt. Did you get that video? Oh, you did.
I'm
okay.
on it.
There we go.
That's the shell.
Look at the size of that shell. That looks like a fucking PVC.
Damn near looks like a 40 millimeter.
It looks like a fucking water pipe main line going into your house. That's some crazy looking shit. Get to the shooting of this motherfucker. It's crazy.
Look at the size of that thing.
And what's funny is when you look at it, it looks like somebody just sort of put this fucking gun together from two other things and combined it into one thing. Okay. I love these guys. They crack me up. You hit it? No.
Oh.
But these guys crack me up. Don, you would probably get a kick out of these fuckers. They're former Special Forces Ranger guys, and they get together and they'll go, hey, what does it sound like to have a 50 caliber fired over your head? Let's find out. They'll go down range and let people fire over them. Now that one's 10 feet above us. And the one that cracks me up, and Anima saw me do it, when you hear it sizzle, she watched me. We were watching it sizzled, and I went like that. That was my instant reaction to the sizzle sound. It's like, oh my God.
Okay. Let me know.
Are we hot?
Now can you hear it?
Yeah.
Austin Rogers Fitness! Goddamn range bodybuilders! Goddamn!
Look at the size.
Jesus.
My God.
These guys are crazy. I love watching their shows.
Yeah, had so much ass to it. It just went straight through. Most shotgun rounds.
Oh, you stopped it. I was wanting to hear what he had to say there, even though I heard it already.
Oh.
So, never mind. That was fun. I like watching those videos. If you never watch it, share their channel out. If you guys want to watch guys having fun with weapons, that's the channel to watch. They could give a shit what YouTube thinks. They don't care. They're like the honey badger. They don't care. They're like Don Ecker. Don Ecker is like the honey badger. He don't care. He don't give a shit. And
you're gonna give me a bad reputation there, pal.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. It's me. It's all on me. Oh man. Well, math is really important. Geometry is really important. That stuff comes in handy in the military. It's how you learn how to fire grenades. If you become a grenadier and you're going to be firing grenades, whether it's the M79 or the 203, you're going to be, you've got to know geometry. You got to know how those projectiles work. And I was like really good at dropping those things on a target, arcing them through the air.
Well,
you have been well, Gary.
The night before I got wounded, this was in Quang Tri at a place called 3 Star. Now, we had just been overrun up on the DMZ a couple of days before. Okay, so this was the late night of April 1st, early morning hours of April 2nd. Now, I had been made the NCOIC, the non-commissioned officer in charge of the reactionary force. So, in other words, if we got hit, all right, and they punched through the wire, my job was to take my troops out and plug the hole. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So we're out there. I'm doing some bunker inspections. We had some M60 machine guns set up. We had some guys out there, and I'm going down, and I had a rough puff with me. Now, a rough puff meant regional forces Vietnamese. It was like Vietnamese National Guard. They weren't actually ARVNs, okay, but they were kind of like militia. Now, at the time, we had a detachment of rough puffs up there, but when the NVA decided to launch their offensive, and we had tanks bearing down on us, T-54, 55 Russian tanks. All these guys had split, except this one kid. We're out there checking the wire. We had been hit previously with some sappers, and we're going along defense line, and in front of us, north of our position, because we were facing north, was an old French colonial building that had previously been turned into an orphanage. When the offensive started, although they got all those people out of there, so it was an empty building. And this Vietnamese kid that was with me, he was my patrol partner, okay? We're sneaking along the line, keeping low, and all of a sudden he stopped and he said, he's pointing at this building, this French colonial building. VC, beaucoup VC there. What he was really saying was there were fucking NVA over there. Now, I kind of figured that what it was an RTO, okay, that was there to adjust incoming artillery fire.
Yeah. By the way, folks, RTO is radio transmission officer or operator.
So we go back to one of the bunkers. They had a field telephone in there, wire, and I called the TOC, and I said, "Look," I said, "my partner thinks he saw movement over there, okay, and I'll take a squad over there. We can check it out. And if there is anybody there, well, we can grease them. And, maybe there's even some actionable intelligence there. Who knows?" Well, they refused. They refused me. Then I'm looking around. We did not have even one frag. Nobody had any frags, grenades. We had no hand grenades at all. So I got on.
That's like going out camping without fucking toilet paper.
Yeah, exactly. And I got on the landline again, the field telephone, and I said, "Hey, do we have any frags here?" I said, "We don't have a damn thing. All I got is my primary weapon, which was a grease gun." I said, we need some frags, because I could see these infiltrators in my head. Okay. I could see these infiltrators coming in. And at night, unless it's a general attack, you don't want to fire your weapon if you can help it. Because if you fire your weapon, okay, they're going to see the muzzle flash, and then they have your ass pinpointed. All right. What you do want to do is toss a frag out there. Okay. Toss a couple of frags out there. That'll keep him confused. So this second lieutenant, who was a MACV guy, he wasn't in my outfit, he comes out there and he said, well, we don't have any frags. And I said, what? Lieutenant, what the hell are we supposed to do? So he disappears again. And a little bit later, he comes out dragging this M16 with this stovepipe where the handguard should be. Now, I had never seen one before, okay? I had never seen one. I was very familiar with the M79. Apparently, they didn't have any of them there either. But he hands me this thing, and he said, here. And I looked at it, and he said, this is the XM203. And I said, oh, okay. How's it work? I had no idea how the damn thing worked. So he showed me, and he handed me a bandolier of grenades. Now I'm thinking, well, this is certainly better than nothing, but I've never shot one of these damn things. You know, how do you aim the damn thing? And it was kind of a guessing game. But as it turned out, it didn't matter anyway, because they ended up smashing us again. And I got nailed. And then that was the end of the war for me. But yeah, fun and games, Gary, fun and games.
Yeah, for those who don't know, that's a grenade launcher that is belt fed and shoot like 900 rounds per minute.
I've got a wonderful picture. I've shown it to you, Don. I don't know if I've shown it to you, Martin, of Zoe on one of those.
Yes,
when she was
I have seen
she was like 7 years old. She mounted a 50. She had a big Ma Deuce, and then she was on the ground on this grenade launcher, aiming it and just having fun on it. And it's like, yeah, I'm like going, you would shit your pants if that thing started firing.
Okay, I'm gonna bring this video up.
Oh yeah, this is the 4-bore.
Motherfucker! It's the only thing I can.
It's the largest rifle in the world, or they call it biggest here, but it's
biggest, most ridiculous shoulder fire rifle ever created. The 4-bore rifle, 2,150 grains, 1 inch in diameter. This is a Campbell soup can, and this is the 4-bore. It's going to be putting out upwards of 200 pounds of felt recoil.
Oh my God.
Yeah, prepare for the pain.
Right. Here we go.
Oh!
What's up, everybody? My name is Scott, and you're watching
Predator.
Kentucky Ballistics.
Got the fucking Predator.
But it's been 2 years since my 50 cal accident. A lot of you have been asking me for a health update for quite a while, so I feel like now
we're gonna
is
have to find out about that 50 cal
If
accident.
you don't know what I'm talking about, I highly recommend you go watch the video. But for those of you who do not know, a quick rundown is my 50 cal.
Let's rush forward. Let's see him firing that rifle again.
A 1-inch piece of metal hit me in the throat, lacerated my jugular, punctured and collapsed my right. Is the 4-bore. And if that's not enough for you, check this out. 10-gauge shotgun shell. Nom, 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 nom. 700 Nitro Express. Nom, 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 nom. 50 BMG. Nom, 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 nom. 4-bore rifles were designed to be the absolute limit for a human to be able to aim and shoot from the shoulder. A shotgun produces upwards of 30 pounds of felt recoil. This 2,150 grain bullet out of this 4-bore rifle is going to be producing upwards of 200 pounds of felt recoil. So
why
basically, it's going to feel like I'm getting kicked by a horse. It's now.
Okay.
Here we go. Oh! Oh!
Jesus Christ.
Holy fuck! Broke the 2x4.
Oh my God!
Oh,
it looked like somebody hit him in the
shooting
shoulder.
a lot of really big guns for a really long time, and I don't think I've ever seen this happen. I have broke a 2x4 before, but I've never seen one snap to this extent. I mean, just broke right off and took it all the way back here. That 4-bore round makes so much momentum that it practically carries
was that an
target
elephant gun?
about 6 feet
They've used them as
we hit
elephant guns,
right here. And surprisingly, that giant round actually dented the steel. It also vaporized a lot of the paint.
That was the coolest part, is when it hit, you saw the paint just disappear.
Yeah.
We saw what the 4-bore will do to an AR-500 steel plate, but now I want to see what happens when we hit some cinder blocks with it. You know, I am really punishing my shoulder today for your entertainment. So if you're not subscribed to Kentucky Living, do me a big favor and do my shoulder a favor and hit that subscribe button.
I'm with anime on this. That shit can dislocate your shoulder very easily.
That's fucking beautiful. I'm sorry, that kind of destruction is amazing.
That is a spicy meatball.
Wow.
I have made a lot of gravel over the years destroying cinder blocks, but I don't think I've ever seen cinder blocks explode like that before. The 4-bore just completely annihilated all of these cinder blocks. It does not appear that we went through the 4th cinder block. I reviewed the slow-mo footage, and I can't really tell, but I think that the round may have deviated once it made it to this, but it is definitely not here on the table. I can tell you that.
Do you know that Herrera just updated
So I'm going to go with one of
AK-50?
That's crazy. That's fucking crazy. I don't know, man.
I'd rather use a block of C4.
I spend an inordinate amount of time sometimes watching some of these ballistic videos, just watching shit going. And these guys the guys I showed before that are former special forces and rangers and recon, and they go out there and they just do shit with weapons. And they're some of my favorites, man, because like what they did a recent one, I don't know if you saw it yet, Martine, where they said, what does it sound when a bullet strikes something? So they went about like shooting different things. Like, here's a wall, drywall. Let's hit that with a 223. And they let you hear what it sounds like. When rounds are coming at you, they let you hear what that sounds like. Rounds hit near you, they let you hear what that sounds like. And even though it seems silly to watch those, they're really very instructional. Because if you ever catch yourself in a situation, it'd be nice to know what that round sounds like when it hits near you, and you'll recognize it. You go, oh, I need to move. I need to duck. But when he put that 50 caliber BMG in the barrel, if that didn't blow your fucking mind, it blew my mind. That's a big fucking round.
Oh, yes, it is.
It's just, I don't know. I'm not going to make the dirty joke that's in my head. It's like putting tiny cock versus big cock. It's just that bad. No hiding behind walls with that one. No, there are a lot of rounds you don't want to hide from. You want to move away from them and get as far away as you can without being seen. Just get low. Back during the black powder rifle era, they couldn't get velocity. So they went for mass with smokeless powder, nitro express cartridge. You can get equivalent muzzle energy with a smaller caliber. It's true. That's the theory behind the 223. Yeah, because you basically got a modified 22. That's all it is. And they just put a little more firepower behind it. That is an AK-47, the preferred weapon of your enemy. Yeah, very distinct sound when fired at us. By the way, I'm thinking about doing Heartbreak Ridge in 2 weeks. Even though I'm going to poke fun at it, there's some great stuff in that film. It's just some really dumb shit in it. and stuff the Marines didn't do. Marines had nothing to do really with what happened there in Nicaragua.
There were no Marines at Pork Chop Hill. They were freaking Army.
That was 2nd Infantry Division. It was 2nd ID all the way. And so he's a big fuck up. But there were problems, like I said, in the writing. And the U.S. Army said, we want nothing to do with this. And so he went to the Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps is dumb enough to fucking go for it. And then, like, they get 3/4 of the way of filming the film. The Marines are like, you know what? We're starting to see a problem here. We're out. But they'd already helped make 3/4 of the film. It was too late at that point.
Well, one of the things that everybody had heart failure over was after they went in to Grenada. Okay, Hightower blasts a Cuban. He's down. He's still not dead, so he puts another burst in him. Now, let me tell you what. People were farting and smarting. Oh my God, Americans don't do that. No, this is wrong. It's a war crime. Horseshit. You've never been out in the goddamn field, okay? When these sons of bitches are trying to kill you, you make sure they're dead.
You got to make sure they're not coming back.
Cleaning up the battlefield. And if you don't believe me, ask the Marines that were at Alligator Creek in Guadalcanal. Okay, after the Japanese tried their mass banzai attack, and they were out to render aid to the wounded enemy soldiers, and the Japs came back to life and tried to kill everyone that they could get close to. Okay, war is a very dirty, untidy business.
Gary, this message is just for you.
If you didn't hear it, I growled.
Yes, I heard it.
I got to tell you, man, it will. If I'm going to do it, it's going to be. It has to be when Tom's there, because if I got to suffer, Tom has to suffer. But I think Tom actually likes ET, so that might be a good thing. I'll find out. I'll talk to him about it. But I'm not a fan of ET. Well, that's the gangster way. 2 in the chest, 1 in the head. Military, we have a tendency to just do firing center mass. And when you walk up to him, you again fire into the center mass, hit him right here. It would be, I don't know. I've never, did you ever hear of that where guys would do headshots after they're on the ground? Because I always heard it was center mass with every military guy I knew.
Well, you had a bigger target than the head.
Okay, Gary, this is bad news for you. Jesus.
Jay Johnston. I don't know who that is. Who is that?
From Bob's Burgers. And you love Bob's Burgers.
I love that show. I don't recognize the name. Oh, him. What? Actor Jay Johnson, known for Bob's Burger character, arrested on Capitol riot charges. He always has that really cool 80s mustache. Been on a lot of Comedy Central stuff. Yeah, this is just a bunch of hunkum. I'm not even going to get into it. It's so stupid.
Did you notice that they used the word riot and not insurrection?
Yeah, it's like mostly peaceful. Whatever. There he is. That's the guy. He got arrested. This is a lynching of just people that are tired of the status quo. You know? Oh, we lost you, Don. Lost you, Don. Can't hear you.
They're considered enemies of the current administration.
They are enemies of the current administration. So am I. So are you. You know, those of us. I hate seeing the elderly get injured, but who didn't applaud when Biden tripped and fell? It was just thank you. So yeah. You know, as many of my friends from New Jersey and Brooklyn would say,
"Bye, Richard.
Fuck that guy. Richard's got to go. Be seeing you, my friend. Be seeing you." And that's the thing. I want to do a show on that on Saturday, and I want to get Red Shirt on for that episode. I want to talk about that show. Did you watch that at all? Or was that too weird for you, Don?
What?
Oh, The Prisoner.
With Patrick
McGowan, yeah.
Hell yeah, I watched it.
That is one of the greatest shows I've ever seen. It impacted me so heavily as a kid.
Patrick McGowan.
Patrick McGowan. I was so terrified of those fucking spheres, the balls bouncing around and gobbling people up. I'm like, what's wrong with those balls? And I didn't want to play with it. Seriously, this really happened. It really did happen. I didn't want to buy toy, play with. I didn't want them anymore. I was afraid those things would gobble me up like they did on that show. There are several occasions as a child where things that happened in movies have impacted the way I played with things. Because I was one of those weird kids, man. I didn't watch a lot of children's shows. I watched war movies, Westerns, weird psychedelic movies and TV shows like The Prisoner and The Monkey's Head. I mean,
one
I watched
of the
that
most terrifying shows I ever saw when I was a kid, a little kid, was Howard Hawks' 1951 movie, The Thing, The Thing from Another World.
Yes,
I
saw Howard Hawks. I was like, oh, you're going to say it.
Saturday night, our local television station had, what the hell did they call it? Chiller Theater or something. And I would always finagle to stay up to watch, because they had scary horror movies. I saw The Thing. That gave me nightmares for months. Oh my God. Yeah. That was
so you saw it on TV?
Yeah.
Chiller Theater? Yeah. Because you weren't even born yet, or were you born when that came out?
What, in 51?
Yeah. Were you born?
It came out in 51. I was born in 50.
Okay, so you're a year old. Yeah, because I told you about my dad.
I was a baby boomer. I was an afterthought after World War II. We didn't go to Korea.
Boomer. I got to tell you, that scene, and you know the one I'm talking about. Hold on a second. I got to get it. The door scene. I got to find that real quick. That door scene. My dad is sitting there. My dad, he relayed this to me as a kid because I watched that movie the first time with my dad, and I fucking loved that movie. It terrified me too. But I'm watching that scene, and here it is. I found it. Is this it? Copy link. I'm going to give you the link here, Martin. Don't play much of it. Find that moment right when they're about to open that door. And this made me jump. My dad telling me this story was one of my favorites that he ever told me. He says, I'm sitting in that theater. This is the Will Rogers Theater, which is still there in Charleston, Illinois. It's historically protected. And by the way, Will Rogers came to that theater when they opened it to help christen that theater because it was named after him. And he said, as they approached that door, he says, I am not sure if it was them opening a door and that thing being there, or if it was every woman in the theater screaming all at once. But my popcorn and drink went flying in the air. Left my hands. You got it?
There are many scenes with doors. I don't know which scene in particular do you?
Well, I sent
you the greenhouse scene.
The guy with the carbine opening up on that thing through the door.
I liked that. That was really cool.
Had no effect. That freaked
me.
Kind of like watching From shooting those monsters coming out of the forest. No apparent effect.
I'll take this one.
There you go. This is the moment. Give it a play.
No, but go ahead and open
it. Like I said, my dad said I love that where he shoots the door. My dad was like, he says, I couldn't tell if it was the girl screaming or this being startled by James Arness standing there. The minute that door opened, my drink and popcorn went flying in the air everywhere.
You know, he was wounded at Anzio.
Anzio, that's right. Shot in the ass. Both him and his brother.
He suffered the effects of that the rest of his life.
His limp got worse and worse. Like he looked like a swagger the way he walked, but the minute he hit his 50s, you can see that right leg of his was pretty much dead. The way he walked, he would lift that leg to move. And riding horseback gave him problems. But Arness was a tough hombre, dude. His brother, too, Peter Graves. Everybody knows him from Mission Impossible and the Airplane movies. As what is his name? Something Over. Captain Over.
Jeebus is being an asshole again.
Oh, is he? No way. No way.
That's Wolfing. He's hitting him back.
We have the most entertaining chat, so we do. It's so much fun to watch what's going on in our chat. Shot in the ass. Yeah, he was shot in the ass at Anzio. And his brother, I can't remember where he served, but both of them served, but in different. I don't think they served in the same theater.
Graves was in the Air Corps, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was Air Corps, but I can't remember if he was in Europe or the Pacific, because by the time that they got in, they started separating family, not wanting them to be around each other because of the Fighting Sullivans. Yeah. Sullivans, that was a huge incident. That's what the whole movie Saving Private Ryan is about, is that whole problem of brothers serving in the same theater of operations.
Yeah.
And well, here's why. You are hugging the ground, Anima. That's why it ends up happening so often. I mean,
buttocks and
you have a tendency of wanting to
heels.
Become one with the ground when you're getting shot at. It's the first thing they teach you.
That's what I meant when I said worms. Get the hell out of the way.
Get the hell out of the way. Because like in field training, one of the first things they teach you in field training is they do live fire. They fire a 30 caliber Browning 30 caliber machine gun over your head. Now, again, with the tracers, it's hard to tell, but it's about 15 feet over your head. But it looks like it's a lot closer because once again, it's hard to gauge tracers when they're being fired right over you. And they show a scene in a movie where a guy gets nailed when he freaks out and it's like, no, he wouldn't get hit. He would get his ass kicked for doing it, for being that stupid. But no, they pay attention to safety in military training, not to get those rounds too close to the soldiers while they're training. And but they want you to get used to moving around with live fire, with weapons going off over your head to get you to calm the fuck down. And I remember what I got freaked out with in that training was my fucking LB. I don't know if you had LBEs in Vietnam. I know that they're around. Lower bearing equipment. It's your belt, which attaches to the suspenders. That's what I carried. And my fucking ammo pouch on my back got snagged on the fucking concertina wire that we're going under. And guy behind me goes, fucking move. I said, well, do one thing for me. Either stick your finger up my ass or help unrig my shit. And he decided not to stick his finger up my ass and grab my gear and pull it off the concertina wire. Because it's like, what the fuck do you expect me to do when you get snagged? Because I'm bigger than those fucking guys. I was like almost twice the size of half the guys I served with.
More claymores, man. I want more claymores.
Hey, what's this mean? Point towards enemy. If you're reading it, you're on the wrong side. And it really is on there. It really says that. This side, point towards enemy. Because everything has to be idiot-proof in the military. And also during Vietnam, you had McNamara's 10,000, where he got the people with fucking IQs as low as 50 into the military. Did you have to deal with that shit?
No.
That was before you. That was closer to 69.
No, the guys I was with, at the risk of sounding like a shithead, we were the top of the top when it came to intelligence. Okay. The guys that I was with were, for the most part, pretty sharp cookies. Some genuine fuck ups now and again, but they were sharp cookies.
Hello?
No, I'm sorry. Just reading what somebody just said. But by the way, Monkey wants us to get Brandenburg on again, but I'd actually like to get Brandenburg. If I don't see him often, I want to get him back on because I just like John. Often, even idiot-proof wasn't enough. No, there's a lot of dumb motherfuckers in the military. And we called them fuck chops. Did you guys use that during your period? Fuck chop is a contraction of fucking pork chop.
No.
We just turned it. Fucktard was another one we use.
We have 3 minutes.
Yeah, I know. I was watching. Thanks, buddy.
Dipshit was real popular.
Dipshit. I always liked the insults from the military. They had some of the most effective things to call somebody.
Fuck what?
Fuckwad. Fuck chop. Fucktard. I heard that one a lot. You would hear that come out of a drill instructor when there was no officers around. That's when you'd hear the senior NCOs cussing. When there are officers around, they don't cuss. They do not cuss. And I heard somebody call somebody that during training, and I thought it was great. He smoked him. It was great. Meaning he punished him. He didn't shoot him. Some people don't understand the difference because you can say smoked and it can mean either one. But during training, it's usually
you say he was greased. That meant it was terminal.
Yeah, greased, terminated, wasted. Wasted's another one, getting wasted. Sometimes it means drunk. Sometimes you just killed somebody. And let's see, any other rocket launchers have instructions printed? Yes, they do. Point towards enemy. It's on there. I've seen it. Got to fire a few of those. They're pretty cool, man. I think one of the coolest things we got to do, though, all of us got to train on the M60. Drill sergeant, I'm sorry, no, it wasn't drill sergeant. It was the lead instructor of that lane. Got out there at the M60 and stood up with the M60, wrapped a belt around his arm like Rambo, and fired it down range. And he says, "Did you notice how many of the rounds I fired didn't hit a fucking thing? That's why we don't do that." Because it doesn't work.
It's time to say our goodbyes.
Yeah, it's time to go. This is our sort of D-Day special, talking about the men who served in that battle. Plus, we talked about a bunch of other military stuff. I'm sure YouTube's going to gank us and say, "We didn't like what you talked about today, so you're not going to be monetized." So, fuck them. I don't care. I do this because we enjoy it. So, anyway, I want to thank Martin for being the right side of my brain. I want to thank Don for hosting the show. I want to thank everybody in the chat today, starting with Anima Confusa, Dragon Ruse, Joe's Atmosphere, Jack of All Casuals, Andy Morrow, Monkey Jeebus, the Peter Vickman fan site, Parrot Head, Bush McFadden, Das Wolfen. Let's see. Zax was here, and Connie Cleary, Roman of the Empire, just another red shirt. Be seeing you. And is that it? Did I get everybody? Did I get everybody? All right, that's it. And that's the end of the show. Chanel, take us out of here. Thank you. Thank you, everybody at KGRA.